If my voice sounds funny, I did just find out that I have COVID-19. Thank God for vaccines. Okay, so I'm making this video because I wanted to share my thoughts on something I've seen a lot of other YouTubers talk about and that I've personally noticed in my circle of friends is machine learning and the coming wave of AI in industry. So that you know where I'm coming from, you should know who I am. My academic background is in physics, but I've worked my entire adult life in manufacturing in factories, specifically in the tech sector. I am also an immigrant to North America from Central America, and I lived in the United States for the last 20 years, give or take. I'm also very interested and intrigued by the concept of AI. I think it will be one of the biggest industrial, commercial, and business revolutions that we see in our time. If you look at the other videos on my channel, you'll see that specifically Isaac Asimov's I, Robot is, when I was a kid and a teenager, what really caught my attention and kind of put that idea in my head about mechanical minds and the positronic brain. I've always been an equipment person, the type of kid that takes the radio apart, and a data person. I personally love science and technology. I'm also a participant in our market economy, participate in the stock market and all that. I say all that because I'm aware of some of the undertones of what I'm going to say next. In the last couple of weeks, and this is towards the end of 2022, there's been a lot of attention in the media about artists' protest against AI-generated imagery. So there are currently multiple AI models that can generate pretty higher resolution images like OpenAI's GPT-3 and the Diffusion model. And Lensa AI coming out has also got a lot of attention with its avatar generation service. So the main idea is that artists are aware that the training data set presented to all these models includes their art. So it's possible to ask these models to generate art in the style of an artist, have images generated in that style with no attribution or payment or in any way recognizing the artist that presented that data to the model that's being utilized. So artists are saying that this is unfair, it's against copyright, and that basically their work is being robbed because these tech companies are using these models for commercial and private industry. It is a profit point for them. All the AI companies will charge per use or per token for the usage of their models. So it is a for-profit endeavor. So the question is, what is right? What is legal? Do the artists deserve any recognition in their work being used to train a model? Ideally, I absolutely agree. Their work is being used by a different group for their personal gain. These AI companies are backed by private capital or tech megacorps. They have financial resources, and they can also outspend any collective of artists that not really known to be the most cash liquid sector in the industry. So it is completely unfair. The balance of power is not there at all, not in the favor of the small artists whose work, again, is being taken and used by these AI models. Regrettably, I don't see things working out in their favor. That's not my opinion. That's what I think is going to happen, simply because of how our legal system works. The more financial resources you have, the more legal resources you have. It's kind of one-sided at this point. So yet another loss for the little guy in our capitalist society. On the flip side, to play devil's advocate, I'm not sure how a system of attribution would work. If I ask a model to generate an image and it ends up being an artist style without my being aware of it, say if I say anime style or manga style, does any one artist get attribution? How do you measure how much of a specific artist's data set or body of work is used in a specific query in a very large model trained on millions, if not billions, of websites and images? It just seems a very difficult solution to engineer, and I'm not sure how you would do it. But again, ideally, I do think that the artists are completely correct, and ideally they get some form, even however small, of monetary recompensation, but I'm just not sure how a system like that would work out. And I think we're going to see a lot of parallels with previous waves of automation and technological upgrades in the industry, where people are displaced as there's less people needed to do a specific job. Businesses get more efficient, make better profits, but you have winners and losers. And I'm sorry to say, I think the artists might be the losers in this case. I think that, or at least I hope, that over time, artists will adopt some of these tools that say if an artist got a request for a personalized commission, maybe they will be using an AI model trained specifically on their image data set that they can start using as a template, and then to save time and then personalize that or build upon that, humanize it. I think over time we'll see artists adopting these technologies and these techniques to streamline and simplify their line of work as well. As a personal example, in my short time making YouTube content, I think I used 10 different instances of AI or machine learning making each video. Currently, all these pictures that you're seeing are generated through AI. I'm currently using a neural network provided by NVIDIA Broadcast as my green screen effect. I use it to double check my data and my scripts, specifically my grammar. I do find that it's very useful to kind of streamline some thoughts that I'm not very eloquent with. And then using color correction and Premiere and audio corrections as well. Some of those rely on machine learning and AI. In video creation, and then once you upload to YouTube, the creation of closed caption and then translating that to other languages. That's all artificial intelligence. Is a big part of video content creation. In fact, you might have had this video suggested to you by an AI that thought you might like it. Okay, so that's what's happening, what's being discussed in social media, or so I'm told. I don't actually use social media. What's my concern? My concern is what happens next. Currently, a lot of these services, their ability to be used and commercialized is throttled by processing demand. Neural networks, linear regression, logistical regression, natural language processing, image generation, text generation, video generation, all takes a lot of processing power. I'm able to do very little of it because I have a graphical processing unit or GPU that I can use for some libraries in Python for machine learning. But the idea here is that machine learning, that AI takes up a lot of processing power. For example, it's very common to see AI generated images, but you don't really see AI generated video. That's because just 1 second of video will take up to 20, 30 images. So the computational load increases exponentially. But at some point that's going to change. At some point, more GPUs will be made, more efficient chips, more lean algorithms. We will be able to generate more. And my question is, what happens then? What happens when businesses are able to further use artificial intelligence, streamline and automate their operations? What happens when companies drastically lower their HR overhead and are able to operate with, say, 20, 30, 50% personnel less, drastically cutting down their biggest expense, which is HR, generally in most companies? AI will present options for streamlining processes both internally and client-facing. It will provide better insight, better information and data for engineering to make better decisions, react faster, lowering cost. Banks and retail services will be able to downsize their HR and communication departments once they're able to outsource more of these tasks to artificial intelligence, the same way that a lot of jobs were outsourced overseas in the 80s and 90s from the United States to the developing world. So AI will have a more prominent role in our society, business, industry, and all other aspects of our lives. On the flip side, in theory anyway, it should provide for better and lower cost products. Since businesses should be able to operate more efficiently at some point, in theory, they should be able to pass at least some of those savings on, providing higher quality goods at the same price or the same goods at lower price, if they're able to be manufactured more efficiently with better yield. Having said that, all that about AI and all these technologies, my concern is not about AI. My concern is about the people that control AI, the people that control firms that are dominant in their fields that may not be held to public account. So my concern is the people behind AIs, that control these tools that are going to be so powerful in the technological marketplace. How are the top 0.01% going to use AI? They're going to further entrench. They're going to use it to leverage things even more to their advantage, because these are very expensive technologies that require very expensive software engineers and data scientists, very expensive server farms. So the people who will be able to best take advantage of these new technologies are the people who are most advantaged now.
Let's raise a glass to this pyramid of money, the foundation of which was built upon our favorite pastime, fucking the poor!
That's not going to change. The coming of AI is not going to change the structure of a capitalist society. and more than likely it will only further entrench the wealthy class. Think about how many stories you can think of some unscrupulous business decision, where some bank or business knowingly screwed over their customers or employees for profit or for cost cutting. 2008 financial crash, Wells Fargo repeatedly, the Sackler family and the pharmaceutical industry getting away with hundreds of thousands of deaths due to opiates, the Triangle Waist Shirt Company historically, Bhopal, the factory collapses in Bangladesh, and I could go on and on. What I'm getting at is that the structured society benefits the people who are most entrenched in wealth. I'm just saying that there are dystopic applications of AI, and you don't have to look very far to find a very real example. Xinjiang. And what happens when AI gets better? What happens when the hardware limitations are overcome? What happens when companies are able to deploy them on a larger scale than they can already do now? What happens when they're more intelligent, more adaptive, and more convincing and better camouflaged? What happens when millions of jobs get automated? What happens when misinformation and spam get more automated and more intelligent? What happens when deepfake videos are easy and common? What happens when natural language processing bots are able to convincingly generate their own news article? What happens when your average person can't determine what is machine generated and what is not, what is real? All these combined might be able to warp sense of reality or control media in a very dystopic way. Kind of like in the end of Metal Gear Solid 2, I'm just realizing. What happens to the displaced people? What happens to people that can't find work in an increasingly automated technological society and workplace? What happens to people that can't adapt to a technological workplace? And there's no stopping it. AI is already extremely entrenched. All the top American tech firms are all AI firms. Google, Amazon, Meta, Nvidia, all have their central focus in AI, and that's not going to change. Companies that specialize in AI have vast financial resources, and they will use it to continue to develop these products that will benefit us in some ways, but will definitely have their drawbacks as well. These tools are a certainty. AI is coming. The coming AI revolution in the industry, business, and workplace is already here, and it's only going to intensify. These tools present too strong of a financial incentive. Industry and business will not be able to say no to the profits that they can get if they utilize efficiently these new technologies. The question is, once all the wealth of AI and machine learning being implemented is generated, what is done with it? Who controls it? And I think we all have a pretty good idea of what happens in our hyper-capitalist global world order. Yeah, sucks. I think the only piece of advice I could possibly give anybody, not that I'm necessarily in a position to give advice, is try to learn or try to figure out how your job or role is going to be impacted by the implementation of these new technologies with the use of AI, and try to see how you can adapt and use them to make your job more efficiently, as opposed to being forced out by it. Can't beat them, join them. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you're doing well. Like and subscribe and all that. I'll see you later. Bye.